Throughout his speeches, Job begins to bring about a kind of lawsuit against God. He uses kind of a legal metaphor. Obviously, there is no court that can really hear a lawsuit between Job and God, but Job uses that language. And this lawsuit is based on the knowledge Job thinks he has about God and the way he works in the world. Thus, the theme of knowledge is bound together with Job's controversy with God, his challenge to God. This shows a chart here of the progress and then the resolution of that lawsuit. So there's an anticipation of this in the fact that the Satan says that Job will in fact curse God. Later, Job contemplates litigation. He challenges his accuser in chapter 13. He announces that there must be an arbiter, one who will choose between God and Job. He himself gives a testimony and makes an oath and a challenge in chapter 31. Ironically, the verdict of an arbiter in the form of Elihu comes in chapters 32 through 37. And then Yahweh appears challenging Job. Job then retracts his litigation, and there is, in fact, vindication of Job at the end. The legal metaphor begins with an accusation by the Satan, who is presented here as a professional accuser of the celestial court, where Job's integrity is questioned. However, in Job's eyes, it is God who becomes the accuser and the legal adversary, whereas in reality is actually the Satan. The turning point in the legal process is Job's oath of innocence in chapter 21. He calls for an arbiter to hear his case and for his adversary to make his charges clear. If neither appears, Job stands innocent. Job's arbiter appears in the form of Elihu, who actually judges in favor of God, since in Elihu's eyes, for Job to even challenge the justice of God makes Job guilty. Yahweh then appears with a challenge of his own and focuses on Job's attempt to undermine God's justice or his just rule. At that point, Job retracts his case because, number one, his oath of innocence is not challenged and he is vindicated. And two, Job realizes that God's just rule of the world is larger than the question of whether the righteous are always blessed and the wicked always punished. And at the end, Job is vindicated and the friends found to be false witnesses. Job first brings up the possibility of a lawsuit against God in chapter 9. He follows with a demand that God state his case against Job. Again, he's assuming that his sufferings are a result of God's unjust punishment. Job assumes he has already been found guilty and wants to hear the charges. He wants to face his accuser. He repeats his request in chapter 13 and voices a desire to state his case to God directly. Direct accusation against God comes in chapter 12. He accuses God of being unjust, arbitrary, and destructive. Further, he has put Job in the hand of the wicked and ignores his cries for help and redress. Rather than punishing the wicked, God favors them and thinks nothing is wrong when acts of injustice are done. Job refuses to put aside his sense of integrity. In chapter 31, he even invokes a self-curse, taking an oath of innocence and demanding to see the charges against him in writing. He has gone as far as he can without actually turning against God and proving the Satan's accusation. Thus, the lawsuit against God creates the potential for crisis, since Job cannot both continue to fulfill Yahweh's description of him as one who fears God and turns from evil, and also win his suit against God. In order to continue to pass the test of chapters 1 and 2, he must remain loyal to God without any reward or honor. In order to win his suit against God, he must be declared innocent and God declared guilty of injustice. So the two are contradictory. Both cannot be. The appearance of Elihu after Job's declaration of innocence has been puzzling to many, and a reason why many have seen these chapters as a late addition. However, whether these speeches are original or not, in the present form of the book, Elihu is the one who presents a defense of God, and he attempts to play the role of stand-in for God. The friends have refused to enter into Job's lawsuit or controversy and have avoided any direct defense of God. Elihu finds this frustrating and takes the task on himself. Job has also demanded arbitration to help settle things between he and God. And it is this role that Elihu attempts to play. However, he comes in on the side of God, and his claims of impartiality apply only to the fact that he does not fear Job or the friends. Elihu provides the response to Job's appeal and sets out to disprove Job's charges against God. At the same time, he makes clear Job's choice and dilemma. Is Job going to insist on God's guilt in order to maintain his own innocence? Yahweh's second speech is his own answer to Job's lawsuit. In the speech, Yahweh does not do any of the things one might expect. He does not state his charges against Job. There are none. He does not defend his own justice. He does not offer any explanations for Job's condition. And he does not vindicate Job at this point. Instead, he asks Job to consider the implications of declaring Yahweh guilty and confronts him with the task that will be should he succeed. Job is asked if he really wants to invalidate God's right or case. Because Job is maybe asking two things. Would you really annul my justice? Or would you really overthrow my rule? Proving God guilty in the wrong is to declare him unfit to govern. But is Job able to take God's place in the world and deal with the proud and haughty whose king is Leviathan?